The late 1980s and early 90s gave KTIB listener the voice of Jackie Brinkley. Today she talks about her career in Thibodeau and her many co-workers. Jacqueline Brinkley-Lombard, how are you today?
I'm doing fine.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
Originally, I was born in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and my family was in the Army, my mother and my father both, and we later moved back to Louisiana, where my mother's from.
Okay. Now, did you go to college?
Yes, I did, at Nicholls State.
Okay. I take it was journalism your major?
Communication, that's correct.
Communications, okay. Well, how did you first get linked up with KTIB?
Well, actually, I was in school and I had a class with Peggy Sullivan, and she was an announcer at the time at the station. We had a French class together. She heard me answer the role, and she really liked my voice, and she said, "Have you ever thought about doing radio?" I said, "Well, my major is in communication," so I said I hadn't really thought about it because I always thought it would be television. And I said, "Well, I guess so." So I went down to the station and I did an air check, and they liked the voice, and they said, "Well, let's go ahead and give her a chance." I started out then as a part-time announcer.
Okay.
And I got my start.
All right, and that was about what year?
That was about 1986.
Okay. How long did you stay at KTIB?
Until about 1993, and I was there on and off for elections or hurricane coverage, and I'd come back and forth.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, I definitely want to talk about hurricanes for a minute since meteorology was my college major. I had a chance earlier to talk to Jeff Zerang, and he had mentioned covering Hurricane Andrew. I take it that was pretty extensive coverage that y'all put together.
At the night. At the night at the station, as a matter of fact, we had a trip up there, and it was pretty scary for a while, but we kept it on the air, and we did a pretty good job, I think.
Very much so. And, of course, I guess during that same window, 87 and 91 were years we had governor's election. I think 87 would have been for Romer and 91 when Edwards got in. I bet you a lot of those election coverages for both the state and the local offices probably got pretty exciting.
And they were. Very much so.
Okay. Let's talk about the people you worked with, because I know there's a lot of good folks that were at KTIB. I'd like to start off with a gentleman who was the owner at the time and was a pretty good manager as well, Raymond Sadie.
Oh, yeah. My mentor. He would often critique certain things. You know, if I didn't say something exactly correctly, he would say, "Well, wait a minute. How'd you say that?" I said, "Okay, let me get that right." So he kept us on our toes, pretty much. Really admire him.
Very much so. Now let's talk about, of course, a lady whose broadcast presence in both Thibodeau and Houma spanned 45 years, Marie Bergeron.
Oh, I call her my second mother, and she was very supportive, always there to show us the way. She could just about do anything, I felt, and I learned a lot from her.
Let's talk about another gentleman at KTIB who I believe you worked with who was pretty accomplished in sports, Darren Fonts.
Darren Fonts, yes. And actually we were neighbors at one time, too. And Darren's a very fun person. Actually, we were even doing the news together one time, and Mr. Sadie had the idea that we do a two-part, I guess, newscast, kind of like Eric Paulson, Sally Ann Roberts. And there was a funny story there. So we were reading something about Brady Bridge, and I think Darren somehow thought I said the Brady Bunch, and he started laughing. I was like, okay, I got to keep this together. Then I lost it, and that went on and on and on. Of course, needless to say, we heard about that. So that was interesting.
All right. I believe there was another gentleman who was at KTIB. He would have been there towards the very beginning of your tenure, Roy Pugh.
Oh, yes. Roy's a lot on as well. He always had something fun to say, something fun to do, trying to play little jokes on us. So you kind of always had to watch yourself because you didn't know what was going to happen. He was funny.
Okay. Were you also there when engineer Ricky Benson worked there?
Kind of, sort of remember him in and out, yes.
Okay.
Always fixing things, of course. We'd have to call him whenever anything went wrong at the station and all hours of the night.
Now, towards the end of your tenure, did you also work with Chuck Botwell?
Yes, I did.
And I take it you kind of found out how much of a character he was.
Oh, Chucky boy, yeah. Oh, yeah. He'd always make us feel good about ourselves, so he always had something nice, complimentary to say about everybody.
Now, of course, I don't want to inadvertently leave out anybody. Was there anybody off the top of your head that you think I may have left out?
Oh, so many. Jimmy Cole was actually the program director at the time when I started, and he did the first air check with me and tested me out. I was a little nervous because I'd never done anything like that. Medora, who's one of the secretaries, she was there. There was a guy named Tim Scott, who was kind of wild and crazy, kind of reminded me of the WKRP era. He was really funny. Of course, Peggy Sullivan, as I told you. I think a guy named Don Gray, Glenn Gomez, Jeff Zerlaine, Michelle Ward. There was also Rosalind Kerr that I remember doing news. Lynn Pitts. Oh, so many. And I know I'm leaving someone out, but just a lot of people.
Well, I take it the years at KTIB sounds like they were filled not just working with wonderful people, but a lot of wonderful memories as well. Why did you decide to leave radio?
Well, actually, radio was fun, and I told anybody, I said, I'd probably do this for free. But, of course, needless to say, we also have obligations in life, and radio, AM radio, really didn't pay well. So I had to look for something else that would be fulfilling for me, and I decided to go into teaching, and I teach children with special needs, and I think I found my niche. Although I still like radio, and I do it anytime, anybody would call me to do commercials or anything like that, I still do that. But teaching is really for me now.
Mm-hmm. So it sounded a pretty rewarding job, to say the least.
Teaching, of course, doesn't pay that well either, but paid a little bit more than radio.
Mm-hmm. So it's good to know that even though you've been kind of removed from KTIB, it sounds like a lot of your memories of the, shall we say, your extended family are still very vivid.
Yes, and I feel like I grew up there. I started out in my 20s, dating myself now, so everybody's going to know how old I am just about. But, yes, I feel like, it's really a good place to start out. Radio was fun, and they were good, and I will never forget them. That's something I'm going to keep with me for the rest of my life.
Well, before we head out, is there anything you'd like to say to all our listeners?
Just that I miss everybody during the swap shop. That was one of my fun things to do. Just God bless everyone, and Merry Christmas.
Jackie Brinkley-Lombard, a voice of reason in KTIB history.